Welcome back to the program. You know, it's often said that you need to judge someone not by what they say, but rather by what they do. And clearly, President Trump is someone that keeps his promises. And what we are finding out in these very short 7 months is that not only is he keeping his promises, but he's over-delivering. He's under-promising and over-delivering. Now, why do I say that? Well, it's pretty simple. Because everything that we have been seeing, we did not see in his first term. We did not see him going in to these different cities and cleaning out the rat's nest of gangsters and gang members and, crime-ridden cities. We didn't see that. He just did what he did. He did the tariffs. He got the economy, rolling again. And then, of course, we saw what happened with, the pandemic and all the other things that happened to him. But the other thing is that they tried to put him in a situation where he will never, ever run again, but also never see the light of day. Their goal, mind you, their goal was to make sure that this president died a miserable, horrible death in a 10 by 8 cell, or whatever the size of the cells are. I've never been in jail, thank God. And so that's what they wanted for him. That was exactly what they had for him. But they didn't have crimes, real crimes, so they had to make them up. So they were willing to risk, if God forbid he won, which he did, their own freedom to get rid of his freedom and to stop him. And this all comes from one point. How dare you run from the outside and beat 16 or 17 other Republicans? Who gives you the right to come in here and win this nomination and become president? We will come after you. You're not part of the club. Well, they're finding out that that club is about to be clubbed, as in clubbed to death, okay? Now, we saw what happened today with John Bolton, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But I want you to listen to this arrogant prick. Let's call him what he is, okay? I want you to listen to what he says here. Let me pull the volume up.
These raids, the New York Post is reporting that they busted into his home in Bethesda, Maryland. With that...
No.
I want to get ahead of it.
My bad. That's the wrong one. Which is the one where... Here it is. My bad. Here it is. So I want you to listen to how arrogant and pompous this guy is.
Any given moment. But I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information, and he didn't appreciate the sensitivity of how it was often acquired, the so-called sources and methods. So this had been briefed to him before I arrived. It was repeated frequently. I think it simply had no impact on him whatever.
There's a couple of different ways that people think about this, and people who are not friendly to the president, who think about what's happened here. And one of them is, Donald Trump, master thief, criminal, running some kind of elaborate conspiracy to bring things out of the White House and keep them secret for potentially for political or financial gain. There are other people who his attitude is Trump is chaotic, he's careless, he's not that smart. He took these things almost by mistake, and now he's basically stamping his feet and saying they're mine. I don't want to give them up. Give me a sense of where you think the truth lies with respect to Trump's intelligence, carelessness, and the degree to which he might have brought motive to bear on taking these documents out of the White House and keeping them for this long at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, it's very hard to speculate on motive other than that he liked cool things. He saw things so he wanted to take them, and he was pretty much able to take them, and not just on classified information matters,
He was pretty much able to take them. Well, John Bolton, you are correct. He was able to take them, and they were not classified documents because as President of the United States, he is entitled, based on presidential authority, to take anything he wants. It doesn't matter what it is. He could write something on a napkin, put it in his pocket, and take it, okay? He could take any document he wanted. A vice president doesn't have that ability to do that. But a president does. So what did they do? They raided his Mar-a-Lago home for one reason and one reason only. They were looking for the Crossfire Hurricane documents. They were looking for what is now considered in the burn bags, okay? They were looking for the fake dossier, the fake intelligence, the Durham stuff that they manipulated and made false and everything else. And he admits it right here, this dumb idiot. Listen, he says he can take whatever he wants. No shit.
Take them, and he was pretty much able to take them.
Yeah, of course he could. And they were not classified documents because of who he is as president. So there was no case to begin with. This was, purely a raid to intimidate him and to try to find the documents that they knew that he had, who apparently was smart enough to give to somebody else. And that's why they raided Mar-a-Lago. They had no legal reason or justification to raid Mar-a-Lago. None whatsoever.
And not just on classified information matters, on all kinds of things that...
And this idiot was the national security advisor, and he doesn't know that any document taken out of the White House is immediately declassified? And this putz, this Mustachio idiot doesn't know that? Come on.
Crossed his desk.
I'm not even an attorney, and I know that.
Some days he liked to eat a lot of French fries. Some days he...
Then he has to insult him, right? French fries.
Took classified documents. He wanted them. Why did he want them? Because he could get them.
Right. And
yeah, he could get them because he's allowed to get them. And they weren't even classified. That's the other part of this. The documents that he had weren't even classified. And even if they were, it wouldn't matter because the second they're removed from the White House, they're declassified. So they couldn't have been classified because if he had them and removed them, he has the right to do that. Why don't these idiots, and especially the prostitute whores in the media, understand or at least push back and say, well, John, you do understand that a president can remove any document from the White House and it's automatically declassified. Where was that conversation? It wasn't anywhere to be found. So anyway, we saw what happened today. Now, what is he being investigated for? Now, the media is, of course, saying, oh, my God, I can't believe they did this to John Bolton. Yeah, well, look what you did to President Trump to try to set him up for 900 years in jail, okay? The difference is that this White House, this Department of Justice, they're not going on a fishing expedition. They're not going to raid someone's home at 7 o'clock in the morning if they don't think they have solid evidence that that person has committed serious, and I mean serious, crimes, which we're going to get into, okay? So, why did they do that? Well, I'm going to give you a hint with J.D. Vance, and then I'll explain it if you can't figure it out from here, okay?
We've learned that the FBI is searching the home of former Ambassador John Bolton, his office as well.
Sure.
Can you tell me, why is the FBI raiding Ambassador
Listen to what
Bolton's
J.D.
home and
answers.
office, and did the White House get a heads up?
Well, so we're in the very early stages of an ongoing investigation into John Bolton. I will say we're going to let that investigation proceed. What I can tell you is that unlike the Biden DOJ and the Biden FBI, our law enforcement agencies are going to be driven by law and not by politics. And so if we think that Ambassador Bolton has committed a crime, of course, eventually prosecutions will come. But as you know, Kristen, this is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. And of course, I'll let the FBI comment on the next stage of the investigation.
What's at the root of this? Is this about classified documents?
Well, again, I'll let the FBI speak to that. Classified documents are certainly part of it, but I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it. And like I said, if there's no crime here, we're not going to prosecute it. If there is a crime here, of course, Ambassador Bolton will get his day in court. That's how it should be. But again, our focus here is on, did he break the law? Did he commit crimes against the American people? If so, then he deserves to be prosecuted.
As we
Did he commit crimes against the American people? Now, I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on television. But if I was to surmise what that means, I would say that's either treason or the Espionage Act. And if I had to guess, I would say it leans towards the Espionage Act. Okay? The Espionage Act. Why? Well, because he doesn't have a security clearance anymore. He was one of the people that was pulled. He does a lot of business in a lot of different countries outside of the United States, all around the world. And I think, and that's what they have done here and why they raided him, that they are trying to see if he violated the Espionage Act. And if he did, bye-bye, Mustachio. Okay? That's 20. That's 20 at least, if not even more than that. Okay? Let's break this down. John Bolton under investigation for violating sections of the Espionage Act, according to reports. Well, isn't this interesting? Mustachio is reportedly under investigation for violating the Espionage Act, according to the New York Slimes. The investigation into whether John Bolton, President Trump's former national security advisor, mishandled classified information. Gee, where do we hear that name, mishandled classified information? Oh, that's right, Kenkel's McPantsuit, right? Mishandled classified information, but of course, James Edgar Comey didn't want to end up with 2 bullets in the back of his head in the middle of a park in Washington. So he said, well, it wasn't that much of a crime, so, it was just gross negligence rather than an actual crime. No, it was a crime, and she should be prosecuted, and hopefully she will be. Anyway, back to the story. So then it says, they're trying to determine if he violated certain sections of the Espionage Act, which makes it a crime to illegally retain or transmit national defense information, according to people familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss details of the case, according to the New York Slimes. Now, if he lost his ability to have classified documents and was stripped of that, and he was continuing to sell influence or giving any type, whether electronic communications, whether phone calls that possibly could have been recorded, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter the venue of where that classified information could be. If that got out and he lost his security clearance and he was still going around the world thinking that he still had the ability to trade information or share any information, he's going to jail. Period. End of story. That's why they raided his home at 7 o'clock in the morning. And by the way, he wasn't even there. He probably has dinner reservations already tonight at the restaurants in D.C. because President Trump cleaned up the city now that you can't even get a table, I'm hearing. It's hours and hours and hours of a wait, even at a Subway sandwich shop practically, okay? So the reality is, he wasn't even, quote, arrested. They just went in to his home, to his office. They grabbed what they needed to do. They didn't go round into his wife's underwear drawer sniffing her panties like the sick bastards did at the FBI under AutoPen either. They treated him with respect. He wasn't there, but the people that were there, they treated him with respect. They didn't throw documents all over the place and everything else. And by the way, where's the apology to Roger Stone? Where's the apology to Roger Stone? And by the way, the CNN wasn't sitting there like they were with Roger Stone at 6 a.m. Oh, gee, I just happened to be in the neighborhood and all of a sudden this is going down. Really? Well, now we're hearing that Conway idiot, Kellyanne Conway's husband from the Lincoln Republican idiots, the Rhino scumbag Trump hater group, right? That one? Well, he was like, well, I was just walking through the neighborhood and I happened to be there. Yeah, bullshit. Okay? So somebody was tipped off on that as well. But the FBI raided the home, of course, and FBI agents were sent to his home and his office as well to retrieve highly sensitive classified materials that they say that he was giving to family members and other people and friends, okay? Unsecured email servers, and while he was working at the White House during the first Trump administration. Investigators reopened a dormant probe into Bolton's alleged use of a private email to send classified national security. Did he learn this from Hillary Clinton? Did he say, hey, Hillary, I know you got off with doing, classified information through your private email server that you held in your bathroom and all that. Can you show me how you did that? because you didn't get prosecuted. So you know what? Maybe I'll try it too. Yeah, well, different sheriff, different FBI, different Department of Justice, and of course, different president. The investigation into Mustachio began in 2020 when he used classified information to write his book titled, quote, "The Room Where It All Happened." The Biden auto pen administration halted that investigation into Bolton, but FBI Director Kash Patel revived it and ordered the raid on the former National Secretary, National Security Secretary, home and office. Bolton has not been arrested or charged with any crimes yet. Special Counsel Jackoff Smith charged President Trump with 31 counts under the Espionage Act for lawfully storing presidential records at Mar-a-Lago. That's the difference. They didn't have any real crimes. We do. Okay? Kash Patel is not going to just send a whole bunch of people in and raid a former national security advisor's home if he doesn't know dead to rights that this guy is guilty. And he's going to look into it. And they know that he's guilty because they had an investigation in 2020 and the auto pen shut it off. So, what we are witnessing is, yes, political retribution and revenge, but they're not just doing it willy-nilly. They've got the documents. They've got the burn bags. They've got the room that they found with the thousands of documents, which just blows my mind. Not that, and I've said this before, I'm glad that they are this stupid. I am glad they're this stupid. But they are fucking stupid. You would have thought, if you knew that Trump won the election, hey guys, you know that those bags of evidence that we have hidden in the back? Yeah, they're in burn bags. Burn them. Burn them before Kash Patel and the FBI and everybody else comes in. But they're so fucking stupid and arrogant. They go, oh, they'll never find those. Really? Well, guess what? They were found. And now you're all going to suffer the consequences in time. They're building these cases. So, again, you need to be patient. I know I've said that before. We got to be patient here. They're building these cases. And as they build these cases, I truly believe that you're going to just see them fall one by one by one by one by one by one by one. And the next thing you know, the media is going to be like, holy cow, what did we cover first? All these different people have now been indicted. Where do we even start? And that is when we get rid of the deep state. This is when we finally get rid of the 2-tier, 10-tier, 100-tier, million-tier, trillion-tier justice system. And we have one justice system for people that break the law and for people that don't. And there's no politicization involved in any of the decision making. And that won't be as bad as they want to. They will not do that this time either. Why? Because we're better than them. That's why. We're going to take them down on the merits of the case and the evidence that we have, not on a hope and a whim, on false intelligence and all kinds of other bullshit. Get ready, because the show is about to begin. Now, let's talk about this. Okay, let me explain something. One of the most important executive orders that was signed on January 20th or perhaps the 21st, one of those 2 days, in the very beginning of President Trump's presidency, was to designate 8 different organizations that are drug cartels and international drug cartels as international terrorist organizations. That is the key. That is the difference. And that executive order in particular was one of the most impactful ones that President Trump has signed. Yes, it's great to get rid of, men in women's sports, and it's great to, do all these other things, which was wonderful and great. We get rid of the DEI. I get it. But this one was huge. You know why it was so huge? Because hundreds of thousands of American citizens are dying from fentanyl and drug overdoses in our big blue cities. And quite frankly, even in some red cities as well, because it's everywhere, okay? And no more loss of life. So what the president did and the administration did is said, look, we know there's a problem. We have drugs coming into the country. And if your countries won't stop those drugs from coming into the United States, we're going to designate you as a terrorist organization, as an international terrorist organization. We are then going to make a threat assessment that you and your organization is a threat to our United States national security in a manner that is so severe because it's killing so many hundreds and thousands of our young people and old people, but all kinds of people. And because of that, we're going to take action against you. First, we have to do this executive order so that we can reclassify you as a terrorist organization. Once we reclassify you as a terrorist organization, then the Department of Defense and our military can start to make plans on how to take you out. And that is exactly what is happening. And it'll probably start, in my opinion, mid-September. Why do I say that? Well, pretty simple. President Trump has declared war on the drug cartels, and the U.S. military are preparing lethal strikes inside Mexico, possibly other areas as well. They have sent destroyers. They have sent all kinds of personnel into Venezuela and around Venezuela, into Central America, near Venezuela. They put a $50 million bounty on this illegitimate, dictator's head in Venezuela. And as Alex Jones said just yesterday, he has already predicted that they're going to take him out. He's not going to be around much longer, and I agree. The Trump administration has issued directives for the United States military to develop plans for lethal operations targeting Mexican drug cartels, according to investigative journalist Ken Klipperstein's reporting. These plans, initiated in late spring 2025, involve Northern Command preparing strike options by mid-September. Military sources indicate the focus is on transnational criminal organizations, particularly the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels. President Trump designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations in the very beginning of his term, as I explained to you earlier, enabling broader national security responses, including military responses. The State Department formally labeled groups like Cartel Sinaloa and Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generacion as foreign terrorist organizations in February of 2025, February 20th, February, wherever it was, I don't know, somewhere around February 20th, 15th, somewhere around there. So it wasn't in January, it was February. This classification aligns with Secretary of State Marco Rubio's view that these cartels should be treated as armed terrorist entities rather than just mere drug traffickers. U.S.-Mexico military relations remain cooperative for now, with ongoing joint training and intelligence sharing exercises. However, any unilateral U.S. action inside Mexico raises sovereignty concerns for both governments. Well, here's the bottom line. If we're going to take out these Mexican drug cartels that are running Mexico, Miss Scheinbaum is going to have to just shut up, sit down, and take a seat, okay? Because Mexico ain't going to do nothing about it. And guess what? In the end, they're going to be happy because they're actually going to be able to run the Mexican government without the cartels actually running the Mexican government, which has been going on for, I don't know, decades, 30, 20, 30, 40 years, however long it's been. High-level meetings, including a July 2025 session at Northcom headquarters, emphasized the need for coordinated responses to shared threats. Northcom Commander General Gregory Gilliott highlighted in February 2025 congressional testimony that these cartels pose a direct threat to United States sovereignty through drug trafficking and migration facilitation. Well, we got the facilitation part under control, but the drug trafficking is not. He noted increased intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance efforts approved by the Department of Defense. Gilead also stressed closer operational compatibility between U.S. and Mexican forces than ever before. The CIA has expanded drone reconnaissance missions over Mexico to identify fentanyl production locations. So in other words, wherever these guys are in the mountains, whether it's in Mexico or anywhere else, they are being surveilled, number one, first. And number two, you could have bunker buster bombs dropped on these people and they're going to be obliterated just like that. Previous operations in Mexico involved the Joint Special Operations Command for Targeted Actions. Now, NORTHCOM Special Operations Command North is preparing targeted packages for potential air, drone, or ground strikes against, quote, high-valued cartel assets and targets. Fentanyl trafficking by these cartels has contributed to a severe public health crisis in the United States. Provisional data shows over 82,000 drug overdose deaths in the 12 months ending in January of 2025, following a dip to about 80,400 in 2024. The intelligence community's March 2025 threat assessment identified Western Hemisphere-based transnational criminal organizations as the most immediate danger to American security. Well, I actually think China is, but this is damn close as well. In April of 2025, testimony from General Gillett acknowledged that fentanyl-related deaths have not decreased significantly despite enhanced intelligence foundations. He requested that more ISR resources and expanded authorities for advise and assist operations with elite Mexican units. Mexico's government has permitted limited U.S. Special Forces training, such as deployments in early 2025 for counter-cartel preparation. Acting Assistant Secretary of Defense Colby Jenkins described these efforts as vital to denying these cartels their objectives. Despite this, full approval for U.S. military strikes remains uncertain due to the political sensitivities. The administration views these cartels and their activities as an invasive threat, justifying preparations similar to post-9/11 counterterrorism measures. Sources indicate President Trump's focus on results prioritizes national security outcomes over potential diplomatic challenges. Military planning integrates coordination with the FBI, Homeland Security agencies, and intelligence community. Potential operations could involve direct action by special forces akin to U.S. strikes in other regions. These drug cartels and their days on Earth are limited, okay? That I can assure you. Because President Trump is not afraid of Claudia Sheinbaum or anyone else, okay? He's here to do a job, and that is to save American lives and protect America from the stench, the rot, the filth, and the death of drug cartels. And he's going to do what he needs to do. And you know what? Everyone's going to be better off for it. Okay. One more story. Okay. So we have seen what President Trump has just done and is continuing to do to Washington, D.C. He has made a commitment, he's made a promise, if you will, to clean up Washington, D.C. It's going to be a beautiful city, as he said, right? He said, when a foreign dignitary or a foreign leader from another country comes in, they look at the city. And if the city's a mess, you're going to lose respect. And that's from President Trump's mouth, not mine. So the bottom line is, we're going to clean up Washington, D.C. But we're not done. It's not going to just be Washington, D.C. As a matter of fact, he's actually going to be going into Chicago next.
And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come.
They are.
They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with, and I think a lot of these people that you see on television, they are, including the people in this audience, they'll say bad things about me, and then they'll say, thank God he's here, because half of them got mugged, and they don't want to get mugged again. But they work for stupid people that are radical left, and they're made to do things and say things that they don't want to be saying. But the people right here are all happy because you're not going to be mugged in Washington, D.C. anymore. By the way,
so there it is. He's going to go into Chicago next, and then he's going to go into New York, and he's going to Mamdani-proof New York City. Let's hope, okay? But there's a lot more to this, and I want people to understand that this, politically speaking, is one of the smartest things President Trump could have done. I'll give you the reasons why. Number one, you go and clean up these cities that have been ravaged with crime and murder and drugs and filth and homelessness and all the terrible things, and families can't even walk down the street. Who do you think suffers the most? It's not the politicians that, yeah, sadly, some of them are getting mugged and things like that, or beat up like Big Balls and others, right? That's bad, right? It's the people that live in the filth, in the drugs, in the squalor, and the prostitution, and their children and their grandchildren cannot go outside and play. There's no parks, there's no recreation, there's nothing for them. They are living in hell. And so guess what? Politically speaking, you could turn a whole bunch of minorities in big blue cities, and they might say, oh, well, we want to steal another. Hell no, I ain't stealing an election from this guy and the Republicans. Look what they did for my city. I can walk outside. I don't have to worry about being, mugged and killed and stabbed and everything else. My kids can walk to school without being, beat up and kidnapped and all this other crazy stuff that happens, right? So this is really smart. Not only that, what else does it do? It gets rid of their voter base. It's a double whammy. Number one, you clean up the city, you make the people's lives better, you make them have better, neighborhoods, cleaner neighborhoods, safer neighborhoods. They can open more businesses, more money comes in, which means what? More people paying taxes, more expansion of the economy. It benefits everything. And the best part is you can take a large percentage of these people and they're going to wake up and go, wow, look what President Trump did. And they're already talking about it. The people walking around, I'm so glad he's there. Bring more. We want more. Bring more police, more National Guard. This is a winning issue. And the only ones that are against it are these sniveling hippie, as Stephen Miller said yesterday or the day before, white liberal women. Oh, this is the Gestapo. This is, the Nazis, and, millions of people are going to be murdered in the street. Give me a break. This man has been nothing but peaceful. He's solved, 6 wars? I mean, how many accords has he done? How many more accords is he going to do? This is the most peaceful president probably in history. So for these idiots, it's an 80-10, 95-5. I mean, it's literally, these people are crazy. And the best part, like I said, get rid of these bad hombres. Arrest them, deport them, and guess what? You lost your voter base. And to me, that's the best part. Yes, I want to see these people's lives get better. Don't get me wrong, I do. But I want to make sure that Republicans can win elections fairly and honestly for decades and years, hundreds of years, if that, to come. And the only way you're going to do that is by getting rid of these illegal aliens and getting rid of the Democrats' illegal voter base. That is why they are so upset with ICE. They don't care about these people. What, are you kidding me? They care about these people because they know that they can get them to vote Democrat. It's very simple. Hey, come on into the country, but don't forget who let you in for free and gave you all these little handouts all over the place. We did that, the Democrats. Don't forget us when it comes election time. What's that? Your son was murdered last week in the streets? I'm sorry about that. Don't forget to vote for us. That's what this is all about. And President Trump is a genius. He is genius for doing what he is doing. Cleaning it all up and making America safe again, these blue cities safe again, and the Republican Party in the future, hopefully, a lot more conservative and stronger again. We're always going to have rhinos, unfortunately. But wouldn't it be nice to have 75 or 80 MAGA House members, and I don't know, the majority of the Senate, MAGA supporting America First Republicans? You know, get rid of these rhinos and replace them with real people, real conservatives, real reformers. President Trump is on the precipice of being able to do just that. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.